Imagine this. You are you're at a slightly loud, crowded networking event. You know the kind.
Oh, yeah, everyone's talking over each
Yeah.
other.
And someone walks up, hands you a coffee, flashes this very friendly smile, and asks the inevitable question. They say, "So what do you do?"
The absolute classic.
Now, in your native language, you would handle this effortlessly. I mean, you would be charming, you'd be professional, you would give this perfectly nuanced picture of your career. But in English,
Oh, total panic.
exactly, your heart rate suddenly jumps, your mind goes completely blank, you start panicking about verb tenses, you second guess your vocabulary, and you end up blurting out this panicked one-word answer like, I, computer.
Yeah, computer.
I
It's
don't
a visceral physical reaction, right? The spotlight hits you, and all those years of, studying grammar rules, they just evaporate right out of your
So
brains.
true. Well, welcome to our deep dive. I am so glad you're here with us today. Our mission today is it's highly specific and incredibly practical. We are basically going to completely dismantle that panic.
Tear it right down.
Yep. We are giving you a comprehensive guide on how to talk about your job in English, from that very first party introduction all the way to, like, negotiating a massive career change in a formal interview.
And we're going to approach this differently too, because if you look at how human beings actually acquire language, you do not build confidence by memorizing isolated words from a textbook.
No, definitely not.
Right, you build it by mastering chunks, like these natural, rhythmic phrases that native speakers use without even thinking. So my goal today is to focus on how this actually feels for you, the learner, and, help you sound human, warm, and natural.
And my job is to make sure we keep the mechanics clear. I'll be breaking down the structures so you have the exact frameworks you need. So let's jump right into that party scenario.
Let's do it.
That person holding the coffee has just asked you, what do you do? And I want to stop right there, actually, because I know a lot of learners who intuitively want to translate a phrase from their native language
Hmm.
and instead ask, what is your job?
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time.
Right. Why does that instinctively feel so wrong to a native English speaker?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on there?
Well, grammatically, what is your job? It's flawless. There's nothing wrong with the grammar.
Okay, so what's the issue?
But culturally and tonally, it completely misses the mark. It comes down to high context versus low context communication. In English, particularly in like North American and British cultures, asking what is your job sounds incredibly direct.
Like too direct.
Way too direct. It sounds stiff. Honestly, it mimics the tone of a police interrogation or, a customs officer at the border.
State your name. What is your job?
Exactly. It immediately puts the listener on the defensive. You're demanding a specific data point from them rather than opening a door for connection.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, the phrasing, what do you do or what do you do for a living, it's softer. It's an invitation. It allows the person to define themselves not just by a corporate title, but, by the actions they take in the world. It's a philosophical difference that's kind of masked as a grammatical choice.
Wow, okay. So they asked, what do you do? We need a fundamental, absolute, rock-solid chunk to answer this so we don't just freeze up.
Right. The anchor phrase here is, I'm a plus your job title.
I'm a... Okay, I am going to challenge you on that right out of the gate, actually.
Okay, for it.
Because I hear a very specific mistake from learners all the time here. A learner might say, I am teacher. No article.
Yeah.
Just pronoun, verb, noun.
Right, yeah.
Because in a lot of languages, like Spanish or French or Russian, you don't use articles like a or an F before profession. So why does English insist on this little word?
It's a great point, actually. English categorizes professions as countable nouns that you belong to. Like, you are one of many teachers in the world. So leaving out the or any, it sounds functionally broken to a native ear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying, I am the concept of education. You have to say, I am a teacher, or using the contraction, I'm a teacher.
I am the concept of education. That's hilarious. Let's talk about the physical mechanics of saying that, though, because this is where a learner can instantly sound like 10 times more proficient.
Oh, absolutely. The physical movement is key.
Because if I say it like a robot, I am a teacher, it
Yeah.
still sounds entirely unnatural, even if the grammar is perfect.
And this is where we get into the beauty of connected speech. You have to remember the basic rule of articles first, though.
Right, the A versus N.
Exactly. We use them before vowel sounds, like an engineer, an accountant, an artist. And we use before consonant sounds, like a doctor, a manager, a teacher.
Simple enough on paper.
Right. But in spoken English, we never isolate those words. We use something called linking.
So how does it actually feel in the mouth? like physically?
Well, you want to mush the words together. The M sound in I'm slides directly into the A. So instead of I'm a, you say I'm ma.
I'm a.
Yeah, say it like it is one single word. I'm a teacher. I'm a designer.
I'm a. It almost sounds like slang when you isolate it, but it's just like the efficient physics of the mouth.
Exactly. It's just efficiency.
What about the vowel sounds then?
So with a vowel sound, the N in an A acts as a bridge to the next word. So I'm an engineer becomes I'm an engineer. The N attaches right to the E.
I'm engineer. Wow, that is so much faster.
It really is.
I want to invite you, the listener, to do this right now. If you're driving, if you're, I don't know, folding laundry, say it out loud. I'm a teacher. I'm engineer.
Yes, say it out loud. Building that physical muscle memory in your jaw and tongue, that is half the battle of language learning right there.
Because it bypasses the panic center of your brain.
Exactly. When the muscle knows what to do, your brain doesn't have to scramble for grammar rules in the moment.
Yeah.
But we do need to address a very real situation here.
Okay, what's that?
What if the person listening doesn't currently have a neat, tidy job title to plug into that chunk?
Oh, right. That's a highly vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
If you're unemployed, you don't want to stand at a networking event and say, I have no job.
Yeah.
That just kills the conversation instantly and makes things so awkward.
It's a total conversation stopper. So we use softening phrases instead.
Like what?
The most natural professional chunk is, I'm between jobs right now.
I love the spatial logic of that. Between jobs.
Right.
It implies movement. It implies that a past job existed and a future job is already waiting. You're just like currently in the hallway between the two doors.
That's a great way to picture it. It frames you as a professional in transition, not a failure.
That's powerful.
And you can also simply say, I'm looking for a new opportunity. Or if you're a student, you say, I'm a student, or I'm currently in school.
Okay, let's say you do have the title. You've mastered I'm a teacher. It's correct. It's fluent. But honestly, it feels a bit like handing someone a blank business card.
Yeah, it's a bit dry.
It's standard, but it doesn't really give them anything to connect with.
Yeah.
How do we make that introduction actually interesting?
Well, the easiest psychological trick to elevate that basic chunk is to instantly attach one concrete detail about your location or your specialization.
Okay, so adding a detail.
Yeah, it gives the listener a mental image. So instead of just saying, I'm a nurse, you say, I'm a nurse, I work in a pediatric hospital.
I see. So you state the title, then you open a tiny window into the reality of it.
Exactly.
Like, I'm a chef, I work in a small Italian restaurant. That instantly gives the other person a conversational hook. They can say, oh, Italian food, what's your favorite pasta to make?
Yes, you are feeding the conversation. You're giving them material to work with. But the moment we start talking about where we work, we inevitably hit a massive linguistic wall.
Oh, no. Which one?
The prepositions.
Ugh, the preposition trap.
Yep. This is where so many highly proficient learners suddenly just lose all their confidence.
Well, let's unpack the logic here, because I refuse to believe that English prepositions are just random torture devices, even though they definitely feel like it sometimes.
They really do. But there is a logic, I promise.
Okay, so when we describe our workplace, we generally have to choose between three tiny words: in, at, and for. Let's try to map the architecture of these words.
That is a great way to think about it as an architectural map. Let's start with in.
Okay, in.
We use in when we are talking about a physical container, a broad geographical area, or an abstract industry. You use it for the type of place.
The type of place.
Right. So you say, I work in an office, I work in a hospital, or I work in the tech industry.
So in is a boundary. I am physically surrounded by the walls of an office, or I am conceptually surrounded by the boundaries of the tech industry.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's look at at.
Okay.
At does not care about walls. At is a specific coordinate. It is a pin dropping on a map.
A pin on a map. I like that.
It identifies the specific physical location or the brand name of the institution. So you say, I work at the city hospital, or I work at Google.
Okay, and then we have for.
Right. For strips away location entirely. For in identifies the entity that compensates you. It's about the exchange of labor for money.
The money exchange.
Yes. I work for Microsoft. I work for Dr. Smith.
Let me push back here with a classic mistake I hear a lot.
Go ahead.
I hear learners proudly say, I work in Google. Now, based on your architectural map, why does that sound so bizarre to a native speaker?
Because if you use in, you are invoking the rule of the physical container.
Right, the walls.
So when you say, I work in Google, a native speaker's brain subconsciously pictures you physically trapped inside the drywall of the Google headquarters.
Like you're a prisoner of the architecture. You're wandering the air conditioning vents saying, "Help me, I work in Google."
Precisely. It sounds like a location emergency rather than a career.
That's hilarious.
So when you say I work at Google or I work for Google, you are correctly identifying your relationship to the organization as, an employee at a specific coordinate or providing labor to a specific entity.
Okay, but what if I work on a farm? English throws a curveball there, right? We don't say in a farm.
That is true. English is an agricultural language at its ancient roots, and a farm is an open, flat surface.
Okay.
You work on a surface, so I work on a farm. But for the vast majority of modern corporate and service jobs, you are choosing between in, which is the container or industry, at the specific point or brand, and for the employer.
And we have to update this map for the modern era, don't we? Because the physical container has just disappeared for a lot of people recently.
Well, yes, the remote work revolution. It changed everything.
So what's the phrase?
The vital chunk you need here is I work from home or I work remotely.
Notice it is from home.
Yeah.
Your home is the origin point of your labor, and the labor travels outward via the internet.
I work from home most days is a fantastic, natural phrase that instantly modernizes your vocabulary, and it gives you a highly relatable talking point at that networking event.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're standing at the party, holding your coffee. You've successfully linked your pronunciation to say, "I'm a marketing manager."
Check.
You have accurately placed yourself on the preposition map by saying, "I work for a great agency." You are doing fantastic.
They're crushing it.
But now we have to face what is arguably the most confusing pair of words in the entire English business vocabulary.
Oh boy. The battle between Job and work.
Yes, and I want to know why these two words cause such immense suffering for learners. Why is it so hard?
Well, it causes suffering because in many languages around the world, there is literally only one word to describe both concepts.
Just one word for both.
Right. A learner's native language might use the exact same word for the title they hold and the effort they expend. But English evolved from this messy collision of Germanic tribes, French conquerors, and Latin scholars.
A real historical mashup.
Exactly. Because of this, we develop highly specific tools for very similar concepts. We have to separate them conceptually.
I am ready. Give me the breakdown.
Okay. Job is exclusively a countable noun. Think of it as a specific, defined slot in an organization.
Okay, a defined slot.
It is the title. You can count it. You can have one job. You can have two jobs. It is an object that you possess.
So it's a thing I have. I have a job.
Exactly. Now, work is much broader and more philosophical. Work can be an uncountable noun representing the general concept of employment or effort. But crucially, work is a verb.
A verb.
It is the action of executing your duties. It is the expenditure of energy.
Okay, so Job is the box, and work is the energy I spend while standing inside the box. I like that. Let's look at how this plays out in real sentences. Where do learners get this wrong?
A learner might try to treat work as a countable object and say, I have a work. Or they might try to treat job as a location and say, I go to job.
Yeah, both of those just shatter the ear of a native speaker. It immediately sounds off.
Because you cannot possess an uncountable concept like a work, and you cannot physically travel to a title like a job.
Right. So the correct ironclad chunks are, I have a job, you possess the title, and I go to work, you are moving toward the action.
Yes. Let's give the listener a little test right now to see if this is locked into their brain.
Oh, I love a test.
So I want you, the listener, to imagine you're at that party and you want to turn the tables. You want to ask the person with the coffee what their specific profession is.
Okay.
Based on what we just learned, would you ask them, what's your job or what's your work?
Think about it for a second. The answer is, what's your job?
Exactly. Because you are asking them to name the specific countable noun, the title they possess.
Right.
You could also say, what's your line of work, meaning what abstract industry are you expending energy in? But asking what's your work on its own, it sounds like you're asking them to physically show you the energy they've expended. It just doesn't make sense.
So once you understand that work is the action you perform, the very next thing that happens in the conversation is the person says, oh, you're a marketing manager. What exactly do you do all day?
And this is the second major panic point.
Oh, yeah. The learner suddenly feels like they have to recite their entire, highly technical 10-page employment contract.
Which is a terrible conversational strategy. Nobody wants to hear that at a party.
Right. We need to talk about unpacking your day, describing your responsibilities without getting bogged down in corporate jargon or repetitive grammar.
Let's do a weak versus better comparison here.
Okay, setting the scene. Let's say a learner has a solid intermediate grasp of English, but they lack professional polish. They might describe their day by just leaning on the verb do over and over. They say, I do emails, and I do meetings, and I do phone calls.
Right. And grammatically, it's fine.
But professionally,
Professionally, it sounds juvenile. Using do for everything strips the action out of your language. It makes you sound like a passive participant in your own career.
so what's the upgrade?
The upgraded version replaces do with specific action verbs tied to responsibilities. Instead of I do emails, you say my responsibilities include answering emails, organizing meetings, and preparing reports.
The power of that sentence is incredible. Answering, organizing, preparing. You sound active. You sound totally in control.
You really do.
But there is an opposite extreme to this, isn't there? The learner who tries too hard.
Ah, yes. The learner who swallows the thesaurus before the networking event.
I've met that person. Let's do a quick role play. I'm going to be a nervous English learner. I really want this person at the party to respect me, so I'm going to translate the most complex, high-level vocabulary from my native language directly into English to prove how smart I am. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, at my enterprise, I facilitate the optimal synergizing of client-facing paradigms in order to maximize our cross-departmental operational throughput.
Wow. Wow. Okay, as a native speaker, if you say that to me at a party, I am going to slowly back away from you and go find some snacks.
Oh, why? I used huge word.
Because it is completely devoid of humanity. It is abstract noise.
Right, it means nothing.
Exactly. When we communicate, especially when we are bridging a language barrier, clarity is the ultimate form of intelligence.
Clarity is intelligence. I like that.
If you hide behind massive multisyllable jargon words, you don't sound smart. You actually sound insecure. You sound like you are trying to disguise the fact that you don't know how to speak simply.
Ouch, but fair. Let's translate my terrible jargon into actual human English. What am I actually doing all day in that scenario?
Right, let's simplify. You could just say, I help our customers solve their problems faster.
I help our customers solve their problems faster. Man, do you feel how much more powerful that is?
It is confident, it is clear, it is undeniable.
It actually reminds me of a structural analogy. Describing your daily tasks is exactly like giving someone a recipe.
Oh, how so?
Well, if I ask you, hey, how do you bake a chocolate cake? You do not start by explaining the molecular chemical reaction of the baking powder mixing with the acidity of the cocoa.
No, I definitely don't.
And you don't list every single individual grain of sugar.
Yeah.
You just give me the main ingredients. You mix flour, sugar, eggs, and you bake it.
That is the perfect mental model. You just need to hand people the main ingredients of your workday.
Right.
And to help our listeners do this, we have 2 highly reusable grammar frameworks. These are chunks you can rely on forever.
Perfect. Give us the first framework.
Framework 1 is, my main responsibility is to, followed by a base verb.
Okay, give me an example.
For example, my main responsibility is to manage the budget. Or, my main responsibility is to write code.
I like that. It sets up a singular, clear focus. What is the second framework?
Framework 2 is for listing multiple ingredients. It goes, my responsibilities include, followed by verbs ending in ing.
Ah, the ing verbs.
Right. So my responsibilities include answering client questions, designing graphics, and updating the website.
I love the rhythm of those ing verbs.
Yeah.
Answering, designing, updating. It creates this linguistic momentum. It propels the conversation forward.
It really does.
If you are listening right now, try to plug your own daily tasks into that framework. My responsibilities include, and name 2 things you literally did today.
And here is a fascinating psychological byproduct of learning these phrases.
What's that?
When you are forced by the constraints of a new language to strip away the jargon and boil your job down to its main ingredients, it often gives you a profound moment of clarity about what you actually do for a living.
Wow.
You are taking ownership of your professional narrative in a very distilled way.
That's incredibly true. You realize, oh, I'm not a synergizer of paradigms.
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver.
Exactly.
But of course, you are not solving these problems in a vacuum. A huge part of talking about your job involves describing the environment you're in, the ecosystem. So let's talk about the people around us.
Yes, the human element. And the first point of confusion here is usually the difference between colleagues and coworkers.
Oh, I hear this one constantly. Learners often stress over which one is correct to use. Let's settle the debate.
Well, the relief here is that they are functionally identical. They both refer to the people operating alongside you.
So I can use either.
Pretty much. Colleague has a slightly Latinate formal origin, so it's often favored in academic, medical, or highly corporate environments. Coworker is very standard, accessible, everyday English.
Got it. So you can confidently say, I went to lunch with my coworkers, or I'm consulting with my colleague.
Both are perfect.
And what if there are no coworkers? What if you're a lone wolf?
Then you need the vocabulary of independence. You say, I am self-employed, I am a freelancer, or the very broad phrase, I run my own business.
I run my own business.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now let's step into the minefield of authority figures. I want to look closely at the words boss versus manager.
Okay, this is a critical distinction that learners often overlook because, in their native language, there might only be one word for the person in charge, but in English, these two words carry completely different weights.
Let's start with boss.
So boss is a highly informal, culturally loaded term. It implies power, sometimes a bit of dominance.
Okay.
It is perfect for casual, low-context environments, like if you're having a beer with a friend on a Friday night, you complain about your boss. My boss gave me too much work today.
But I'm going to propose an edge case here.
Sure.
What if I work at a trendy Silicon Valley tech startup? There are no cubicles, everyone wears hoodies, we play ping pong in the break room, and we have a flat hierarchy. Calling the 24-year-old founder my manager feels incredibly stiff and corporately weird.
That is an excellent edge case, yeah. In hyper-casual startup environments, people might use boss affectionately, or they might just use the person's first name, or say team lead.
Team lead, right?
However, the general rule of thumb for anyone navigating the broader English-speaking business world is that manager, supervisor, or director are the structural titles.
So if I am sitting in a formal job interview, trying to get a new position, and I say, yeah, at my last job I reported to my boss, how does that land with the interviewer?
It lands poorly, to be honest. It sounds slightly immature.
Really?
Yeah. In an interview, you are demonstrating your understanding of corporate structure. You must say, I reported to the sales manager, or I worked closely with the project supervisor.
You were describing the organizational chart, not the personal dynamic.
Exactly.
Now, alongside the people in our ecosystem, we have the invisible cage that dictates our lives.
The schedule.
The schedule. How do we talk about the hours we spend doing all this work?
Well, the most famous chunk in the English language regarding schedules is the idiom, the 9 to 5.
Oh, classic Dolly Parton.
Right. This comes from the post-industrial revolution standardization of labor. And the funny thing is, even if you actually work 8:30 a.m. to 6:00 p.m., people will still casually refer to any standard daytime office job as a 9 to 5.
I work a standard 9 to 5.
Hmm.
And what about people who work outside that daytime structure, like healthcare workers, retail, manufacturing?
Then you are working shifts. You can say, I work the morning shift, or I'm on the night shift.
And what if I decide my own hours?
If you dictate your own hours, you use the chunk, I have a flexible schedule.
Nice.
And we must establish the boundary of time, too. Full-time usually implies around 40 hours a week with benefits, while part-time is anything under that threshold.
I want to highlight a massive grammatical trap that learners fall into right here when they start describing their daily schedule.
Oh, the verb tenses.
Yes. Because they are nervous, their brain tries to over-engineer the grammar to sound advanced. When describing a routine, they'll say things like, I am waking up at 7, and then I am driving to work, and I have been checking my emails.
Yeah, they tangle themselves up in continuous and perfect tenses.
If you are describing your daily routine, what is the only tense you need?
The simple present tense. It exists entirely for this purpose, to describe recurring facts and routines.
So give me an example.
Just, I wake up, I start work, I check my emails, I attend a meeting.
It is clean, it is accurate, it lowers your cognitive load so you don't have to panic about auxiliary verbs while you're trying to remember your vocabulary. Just use the simple present.
But eventually, describing that daily routine is going to bring up feelings.
Naturally.
We spend a massive portion of our lives at work. Some of it is wonderful and some of it is incredibly frustrating. We have to learn how to articulate both extremes in English.
Let's focus on diplomacy then. How to talk about the good and the bad. We will start with the good.
Okay.
If someone at a networking event asks, do you like your job? Give me some natural chunks that aren't just, yes, it is good.
Well, you can elevate it simply by saying, I really enjoy the culture, or I love the creative freedom I have.
I want to hand the listener a genuinely impressive, high-level vocabulary word here.
Go for it.
If you want to express that your job gives you deep, personal satisfaction. Maybe you help people. Maybe you solve complex puzzles. You say the work is rewarding.
Rewarding. That is a beautiful word.
Right.
It means the psychological return on your investment of energy is high. The paycheck is secondary. The feeling is the reward.
Or you can use another powerful chunk. I feel like I'm making a difference. If you work in education, healthcare, social work, or nonprofits, making a difference is the perfect way to summarize your impact.
Definitely. But we have to address the reality that work is not always rewarding. Sometimes it is awful.
Sometimes it is just the worst.
And here's where we hit a massive cultural friction point. How we complain about work varies wildly across the globe.
This is so true. In some cultures, say Dutch or German or certain Eastern European cultures, directness is highly valued. If the process is broken, you say, this is broken, it is terrible. If the boss is bad, you say, my boss is incompetent.
But in the Anglo-American business world, direct, unfiltered negativity is often perceived as a character flaw in the speaker rather than an accurate assessment of the situation.
Wow. Yes, the diplomatic filter.
Yeah.
You cannot just blast negative emotion into the room. So if a learner is frustrated and bluntly says, I hate my boss, or I hate working overtime, what actually happens?
The listener, especially if it is an interviewer or a new contact, instantly categorizes that person as a complainer, someone who might be difficult to work with, or someone who lacks emotional intelligence. You have to upgrade your complaints into challenges.
Okay, show me the mechanics of that upgrade.
Mhm.
How do I reframe I hate my boss?
You remove the personal attack and you focus on the dynamic instead. Instead of I hate my boss, you use a softening phrase. Sometimes communication with management is challenging.
Wow. That is linguistic judo right there.
Yes.
Communication with management is challenging. You took the blame off the human being, you placed it on the abstract concept of communication, and you swapped the violent emotion of hate for the professional reality of challenging. Okay, what about I hate working overtime?
So using that same logic, I wouldn't talk about hating the hours. I would say working long hours can be tiring. Or maintaining a work-life balance has been a challenge lately.
It is brilliant because you are still communicating that you are unhappy with the situation, but you are doing it in a way that proves you are a mature professional.
Right.
It's kind of like navigating a detour on a road trip.
Oh, how so?
You're driving with a friend, you hit a section of road full of massive potholes. You don't start screaming about how you hate the asphalt and the city planners are evil and the car is going to explode. That just ruins the mood of the whole car.
Yeah, nobody wants to be in that car.
Exactly. You just grip the steering wheel, sigh, and say, well, this route is a bit challenging right now. You acknowledge the bump without losing your composure.
That is exactly how you should treat workplace complaints in English. Let's arm the listeners with the exact vocabulary they need for common complaints.
Let's do it. If you are overwhelmed with tasks, you don't say, I have too much work. You say,
I have a heavy workload.
if you spend 2 hours on a miserable crowded train every morning, you don't say the travel is bad. You say,
I have a long commute.
if you do the exact same boring spreadsheet every day for 3 years,
The tasks can be quite repetitive.
and if you look up the corporate ladder and realize there is absolutely no chance you are ever getting promoted.
You say there is a lack of room for growth.
Heavy workload, long commute, repetitive tasks, lack of room for growth. These phrases are golden keys. They allow you to express deep frustration while sounding highly proficient and perfectly professional.
But of course, diplomatic complaints only go so far. Eventually, if the commute is too long and the workload is too heavy, a learner has to face the ultimate communication test.
Negotiating a way out and talking about their future.
Yes.
Which brings us to money, ambition, and the terrifying world of formal job interviews. Let's start with the money. There is a fundamental vocabulary distinction that routinely trips up learners, and it's the difference between salary and wage.
This is deeply tied to the history of class and labor in the English-speaking world, actually. The words function differently because they describe different economic realities.
Let's break down salary first. Where does that come from and how does it work?
The word salary actually comes from the Latin word for salt, salarium, which was given to Roman soldiers as a form of fixed payment.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. In the modern world, a salary is a fixed amount of money calculated on a yearly basis. It is standard for white-collar, corporate, professional, or office jobs.
So it's fixed.
Right.
Hmm.
If you have a salary, you are generally paid the exact same amount every month, regardless of whether you worked exactly 40 hours or stayed late and worked 50 hours. The compensation is for the role, not the hour.
So an accountant, a marketing manager, a software engineer, They earn a salary.
Now, what about a wage?
A wage is directly tied to time or output. It is an hourly, daily, or weekly rate.
If you work 30 hours, you get paid for 30 hours.
Yeah.
If you work 45 hours, you get paid for 45 hours, often overtime pay for the extra hours. This term is standard for the service industry, retail, manufacturing, or labor jobs.
So a barista, a construction worker, a retail associate, they earn an hourly wage.
Precisely. You would say, my salary is $60,000 a year, but you would say my wage is $20 an hour.
But wait, we need to talk about the cultural reality of saying those sentences out loud. Because in North America and Britain, talking about exact numbers is a complete social minefield.
It is a massive taboo. In many cultures, asking someone how much they make is a standard way of understanding their social position. It's normal. But in Anglo cultures, asking someone their salary at a party is considered incredibly intrusive, rude, and aggressively impolite.
So if you are at that networking event and someone asks, is the money good? You do not say, yes, I make $85,000. You will literally watch the oxygen leave the room.
Oh, totally. You have to keep it vague and modest. You use chunks like, I earn a good salary, or the pay is decent, or if you want to be very casual, it pays the bills.
It pays the bills. I hear that one all the time.
Right. You only discuss exact numerical dollars when you are actively sitting in a room with HR negotiating a contract.
Okay, so we've diplomatically sidestepped the money question at the party. Now let's say you were sitting in that interview, and the hiring manager leans forward, looks you in the eye, and asks the most famous cliché interview question of all time.
Oh, I know it's coming.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
The ambition test.
When a learner hears this, they often panic because they think they need to promise the interviewer that they will dedicate their life to the company. How do we provide natural chunks for ambition?
You want phrases that indicate forward momentum and a desire to learn. You can use the chunk, I'd like to become. For example, I'd like to become a senior project manager.
I really like the phrase, I'm working towards. It implies action. It says you aren't just sitting around waiting for a promotion. You are actively building the skills right now. I'm working towards a leadership role.
Or you can focus on skill acquisition rather than a title. You know, I want to develop my skills in data analytics. Or I plan to get my master's degree.
Now, I want to pause here and advocate for a completely different type of learner.
Okay.
We are handing out all these phrases for climbing the corporate ladder, for being ambitious, for pushing for the next big thing. But what if you don't want to?
Right.
What if you genuinely like your job, you like your colleagues, your salary pays the bills, and you just want to stay exactly where you are?
That is incredibly valid, and it's a perspective that is becoming much more respected in modern work culture. But you need specific language so that you don't sound lazy or unmotivated to an employer. You need the language of fulfillment.
How do I express that without sounding like I've just given up?
You use words related to satisfaction. You say, I am very happy where I am right now, or I am content with my current position.
Content. That is the key word. C-O-N-T-N-T. It means peaceful, balanced, deeply satisfied. Saying I am content is a beautiful, confident way to declare that you have found your rhythm. You do not need to be the CEO. You can just be content.
Absolutely. So we have built an incredible foundation today, from the first handshake to the 5-year plan. But before we bring all of this together into real-world scenarios, we need to sweep the floor.
Sweeping the floor, what do you mean?
There are a few lingering vocabulary traps, tiny little mistakes that trip up even highly advanced learners.
Ah, the trapdoors. Let's clear them out so our listeners are totally protected.
Right.
We're going to rapid fire through 3 massive confusions. First up, the vocabulary of finding a job. A learner might say, I am searching job, or I am finding a job.
Right. This comes from a direct translation of Latin-based languages where the verb for searching and looking are often the same word. But in English, search implies a deep forensic investigation of a physical space.
Like searching a crime scene.
Yes, you search a room for a hidden key. You search a database for a file. You do not search a conceptual job market.
So you must use the phrasal verb, I am looking for a job.
Yes. Or, if you want a fantastic native idiom, I am job hunting.
I love the imagery of job hunting. It makes you sound active, like you're out in the wilderness with a map tracking down your career. And what about the past tense? People say, I find it a job.
No, the English language is full of brutal, irregular verbs. The past tense of find is found. So I was looking for a job, and finally I found a job.
Excellent. Trapdoor number 2, the word experience versus experienced.
This is a classic confusion between a noun and an adjective.
Mm.
Experience, ending in that soft CE sound, is a noun.
Right.
It is an uncountable abstract concept. It is the collection of knowledge you have gathered over the years. You possess it.
So I have a lot of experience.
Exactly. Now, experienced, ending with the hard ED sound, is an adjective. It is a descriptive word that modifies you as a person.
So the spoken coaching moment here is never ever say, I am experience. You are not the physical, glowing embodiment of the abstract concept of experience. You are a human being.
You must say, I am an experienced teacher, or I am highly experienced in marketing.
Try that out loud, listeners. Feel the phonetic difference at the end of the word. I have experience. I am experienced. Okay, the final trapdoor. This one causes chaos when people move to different countries, the difference between hire and rent.
Conceptually, they are identical, You're paying money to temporarily use something that does not belong to you.
Right.
But the application is strictly divided. Hire is almost exclusively used for human beings and their labor. You pay for their time. The company hired me. We need to hire an accountant.
You are renting their brain for 40 hours a week, basically.
Basically, yes. Whereas rent is reserved for physical objects, property, and real estate. You pay to occupy a space or use a physical item. I rent an apartment. We rent office space.
But there's a massive transatlantic collision here regarding vehicles, right?
Yes, the great US-UK divide. In British English, cars are sometimes treated under the vocabulary of services, so a British person will go on holiday and hire a car. But in American English, a car is strictly a physical object, so an American will rent a car.
My advice to learners navigating global English, just stick to the safest, most universal rule. You hire humans, you rent physical things. The company hired me, and I rent an apartment.
Okay, we have given the listeners a massive toolkit today. We have prepositions, chunks, diplomatic reframes, and clarified grammar. But having the tools in a box is useless if you don't know how to swing the hammer under pressure.
Absolutely. We have to talk about how this actually sounds in real-world scenarios. We need to analyze the two very distinct tones required when talking about your job. Casual networking versus formal interviewing.
Let's set the scene for scenario one, the networking event. This is the party from the beginning of our deep dive. You have your coffee. What is the goal here?
Well, the goal is relatability.
Yeah.
It's not precision. You aren't trying to prove you are the smartest person in the room. You're trying to prove you are a pleasant human being to interact with.
Exactly. So your language should be relaxed. You use the simple chunks. I'm a marketing manager. I work for a great tech company. And the follow-up conversation shouldn't be about your deep technical synergistic throughput.
Please no.
It should be about shared human experiences.
Right. The person might ask, oh, tech, do you have to commute into an office or do you work from home? And you can use your diplomatic vocabulary. You say, I go in twice a week, but the long commute is a bit challenging, so I prefer working remotely.
Yeah.
It's just conversational ping pong.
Now contrast that with scenario two, the job interview. The energy shifts completely.
You walk into the room, you sit across the desk. Relatability is no longer enough. Now you need precision.
In an interview, every word is being evaluated. This is where you deploy the specific structured vocabulary we discussed. You don't casually mention your boss. You explicitly talk about reporting to your manager. You don't say you do emails. You state that your responsibilities include client correspondence.
You have to prove you understand the architecture of the business world. Even your weaknesses have to be framed diplomatically as areas for growth, just like we upgraded our complaints about the heavy workload.
And here is the most crucial psychological insight for our listeners: cognitive load.
Explain that to me.
When you are in a high-stress situation, like a job interview in a second language, your brain's working memory actually shrinks.
Really?
Yeah, your amygdala is firing, your heart is beating faster. You physically do not have the brain power available to remember a grammar rule, translate a word from your native language, conjugate the verb, and monitor your pronunciation all at the exact same time. You will freeze.
Which brings us back to why translating in your head is a trap.
Exactly. Confidence in these high-stress scenarios does not come from memorizing a textbook of grammar rules. It comes from having pre-built, automated chunks of language that you can deploy without thinking. You need phrases that live in your muscle memory, not your analytical brain.
And to build that muscle memory, to automate those chunks, you cannot just listen to us and nod along. You have to take physical action. You have to move your mouth.
Which is why we are ending this deep dive by issuing you, the listener, a challenge. We are giving you a structured 7-day speaking challenge.
This is entirely practical.
Yeah.
You do not need a tutor. You do not need a conversation partner. You do not need to live in an English-speaking country. You just need yourself and your smartphone.
Let's walk through the mechanics of the week. Days 1 and 2 are about acquisition and personalization. You have listened to this deep dive. Now sit down with a piece of paper and write down 8 useful chunks from today that apply to your specific life.
Yeah, don't write down, I'm a nurse, if you are an accountant. Customize it. Write down, I'm an accountant. Write down, my main responsibility is to balance the books. Write down, I'm looking for new opportunities. Build your personal script.
Day 3 is physical practice. Shadowing. Take that piece of paper, stand up, and say the phrases out loud. Do not whisper them in your head. Speak them to the empty room.
Get the mouth moving.
Focus on the linking. Blend the words together. Get your jaw and your tongue used to the physical movement of the English language.
Day 4 is where we simulate the stress. I want you to stand in your kitchen, put away the paper, and talk about your job or your dream job out loud for 2 full minutes.
It will be incredibly messy. You will stutter. You will pause. You will forget words.
That is the whole point. You are identifying the gaps in your automation. On day 5, we add accountability. Open the Voice Memo app on your smartphone, hit record, and do the 2-minute speech again. Then you have to do the hardest part.
Oh, listening to it.
Listening to it. Listening to your own voice in a second language is painful, but it is the fastest way to improve.
It really is. Notice where you hesitate. Where did your brain freeze? That freeze is the exact moment you try to translate a complex thought from your native language instead of using a simple English chunk.
Day 6 is the adjustment phase. Record it again, but this time, force yourself to be simpler. Strip away the complexity. Remember the recipe analogy. Stop trying to explain the chemical reaction of the baking powder. Just give the main ingredients.
If you get stuck on a big word, abandon it. Use a smaller word. Prioritize flow over perfection.
And finally, day 7, synthesis. Stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eye, and imagine someone just handed you a coffee at a networking event and asked, what do you do? Give them your smooth, practiced, automated answer.
Speaking to yourself might feel a little bit crazy at first, but it is a profoundly powerful way to build fluency. It removes the social anxiety of making a mistake in front of a native speaker and allows you to focus purely on the mechanics of the language.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today.
We really have.
Let's quickly retrace our steps. We started by dismantling the interrogation of what is your job and embraced the conversational what do you do. We linked our pronunciation to seamlessly say, I'm a.
We navigated the architectural map of prepositions, ensuring we don't accidentally trap ourselves in Google, but properly work at a company or for an employer.
We traveled back through linguistic history to separate the countable noun of our job from the uncountable action of our work. We used the recipe analogy to explain our daily responsibilities without putting people to sleep with corporate jargon.
We defined the office ecosystem, separating informal bosses from structural managers. We utilized the simple present tense to describe our 9-to-5 routines without tangling ourselves in complex grammar.
We mastered the art of Anglo diplomacy, learning how to culturally reframe our deep hatred for overtime into a challenging schedule and a heavy workload.
We explored the economic history of fixed salaries versus hourly wages, navigated the taboo of discussing exact numbers, and learned how to express our 5-year ambitions while still validating the beauty of being completely content.
And finally, we close the trapdoors on searching, experiencing, and renting. It is a massive, comprehensive toolkit. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a slightly deeper, more philosophical idea to ponder this week.
We spend a lot of time focusing on the mechanics of language, the grammar, the syntax, the vocabulary. But language is not just a neutral tool we use to describe reality. Language actually shapes how we perceive reality.
This is what fascinates me. Does learning how to articulate your job clearly in a second language actually change how you feel about your career?
I believe it does. Think about the process we just went through. When you step outside the comfort of your native language, you are forced to strip away the clutter. You are forced to simplify. You have to look at the messy reality of your daily grind and distill it down to its core ingredients. You have to reframe your raw frustrations into diplomatic challenges.
You stop translating your stress and you start building clear, confident chunks about your actual value. And in doing that, you might suddenly realize, wait a minute, when I say it simply, what I do is actually pretty impressive. I solve problems, I manage systems, I make a difference.
By mastering the vocabulary to describe your professional value to others, You often end up proving your value to yourself. It is a fresh lens on your own life.
A profound thought to carry with you into the week. We want to hear from you. We have a question of the day that we want you to answer in the comments. Using the chunks and the frameworks we taught you today, tell us, what is your current job? Or, if you are a student or looking for work, what is your dream job? Practice the frameworks right there in the comments.
And if you found this deep dive valuable, if you want more episodes where we break down the mechanics of the English language while keeping it practical, human, and accessible, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It helps us continue making these guides for you.
Every single chunk you learn, every single time you feel silly talking to yourself in the kitchen mirror, brings you one step closer to your goals. You're putting in the effort to bridge the language barrier, and that is what truly matters. So the next time you are at a crowded party and someone hands you a coffee, smiles, and asks, "So what do? You are not going to panic. You're going to take a breath, smile back, and know exactly what to say. Keep practicing, keep speaking out loud, and we will see you next time.